General Hospital teasers for the next 3 weeks, July 28th to August 15th, indicate that there will be lab break-in drama, while Jason Morgan and Anna Devane discuss Britt Westbourne's survival. Viewers will also get to watch what happens next for Willow Tate and Drew Kane. So let's talk about it all. Drew and Willow's wedding will take place over the week of July 28th to August 1st. Drew's antagonists, Tracy Quartermaine and Cody Bell, are celebrating, implying that he did not get the wife he expected. Elizabeth Baldwin will have a house guest after the wedding, so Willow ends her relationship with Drew and moves in with Liz for the time being. Willow will hope Michael Corinthos is willing to revisit the matter of visitation when she does what he always wanted and pushes Drew out of the picture. Michael will face a difficult decision and may hear Willow promise to be a better mother this time around. After Curtis Ashford apologizes for blabbing to Willow, she will cry on Portia Robinson's shoulder. Curtis will also provide Trina Robinson with critical updates, allowing her to stay up to date on Drew's recent developments. Felicia Scorpio will give Lucas Jones some advice. Lucas has been enraged by the Sonny Corinthos situation and how it is harming Marco Rios, so Felicia will have some words of wisdom for him. After grilling Liesl Obrecht about the events preceding and following Britt's death, Jason will ask Elizabeth for a favor. Jason may be attempting to obtain medical information from GH in order to solve the Britt riddle. Whatever the case, Jason grows increasingly certain that Britt has survived and will soon inform Anna. After Emma Scorpio Drake schemes with Giovanni Gio Palmieri, they may proceed with the lab break-in from August 4th to 8th. Of course, Jocelyn Jack's continued involvement in the WSB's investigation into Professor Hank Dalton's activities may cause problems. Rocco Falconeri will also face additional trouble, as he remains captivated to Liesl despite Dante Falconeri and Lulu Spencer's constant warnings. Rocco might even hear about Jason's Britt survival idea and want to meet her one day. Jason's search efforts will be stepped up from August 11th to 15th, so he may travel to Dubrovnik to look for Britt. The show will begin to peel back the layers of Britt's backstory and her relationship to Professor Dalton's study. Jen Sidwell also hinted at a male supervisor. Does Britt work for that mysterious man? Could it be Victor Cassadine, Caesar Faison, or anyone else? Regardless, Britt's resurrection allows other significant characters to return as well. Drew, on the other hand, may be planning some Willow retaliation if he can no longer control her. Drew might use the information that Willow is Daisy Gilmore's stalker against her, and end any chances for visitation or custody. General Hospital spoilers suggest the next 3 weeks will be plenty of surprises and shakeups, so stick with the ABC serial. CDL will have other fresh General Hospital spoilers, updates, and news to check out, so come back frequently for more GH information. According to General Hospital spoilers, Jason Morgan's investigation into Britt Westbourne's death may soon take an unexpected turn. Jason becomes motivated to exhume Britt's remains after spotting her in a Paris airport on July 21, 2025, to confirm her death. Liesl Obrecht, Britt's mother, is extremely protective of her daughter's memories. How will she react to Jason's plan? Could this disclose Britt's survival, or is it a tragic error? Prepare for a week of drama that will have you riveted to your television. Jason's obsession stirs Port Charles. Jason's heart hasn't let go of Britt since her alleged death, and fans on Facebook are gushing about his dramatic decision to potentially exhume her remains after spotting her in Paris. The woman, clutching a white canvas bag and dressed in an orange dress appropriate for the British style, appeared to be Britt, not a lookalike or secret twin, reminiscing about their lighthouse romance and her Huntington's disease struggle. Fans are divided. Some support Jason's mission to prove she is alive, while others believe he is following a ghost and risking Liesl's wrath. Will his gamble ensure Britt's survival or exacerbate the town's grief? GH spoilers tease Liesl's painful confrontation this week. Jason is scheduled to approach Liesl and plead with her to exhume Britt's remains. Imagine Liesl's eyes flaming, split between hope and rage as Jason says the woman in Paris was her daughter. GH fans expect Liesl to blow out, accusing Jason of insulting her Britta's memory, while Nina Reeves may intervene to exploit the tension. Of course, Nina may advise prudence, as Liesl's reaction could range from sadness to retribution. This will be a lot for anyone to process, but Jason isn't known for embellishing or being untrustworthy in his assessments of, well, anything. Will Liesel stop Jason's hunt or join him? Will Jason's quest prove Britt is still alive? The trailers for this week hint at Jason's perilous quest, and the stakes appear to be higher than ever. Will exhuming Britt's body reveal an empty grave, proving she is still alive, or will it dash Jason's hopes? While some of us are hopeful Jason's parasiting could spark a romantic comeback, others are skeptical. What are your thoughts, fans? Will Liesel allow Jason to dig up her sweet Britta's final resting place? What impact might this have on Rocco Falconeri's heartbreaking journey right now? Jason's world was never straightforward. After the tumult surrounding Britt's suspected death, everything he thought was hidden came crashing to the surface. Her survival had been a miracle, but not without costs. Jason needed to recalibrate. He was not a man who expressed his feelings easily, but when he saw Britt alive, everything changed. The chilly, silent fortitude he had wrapped himself in for so long began to thaw, gradually. That moment pushed him to admit how much losing Britt had hollowed out the side of himself he rarely showed others. With Britt back, alive and recovering from her ordeal, Jason was confronted with a reality that contradicted what he had previously accepted. In his heart, he'd made peace with her loss, if that were possible, and attempted to move on. But meeting her again reopened wounds and raised questions. He couldn't simply resume their relationship as if nothing had occurred. Too much time, too many options, and too many sacrifices got in the way. Their reunion was difficult at first, as both were unsure how to handle this unbelievable turn of events. Britt, like always, was not interested in pretending. She desired truth, raw, messy, and difficult truth. Jason, who had perfected the art of emotional silence, had to reach deep to meet her halfway. But he owed her so much. Her survival altered more than just his personal journey. It threatened to disrupt the careful equilibrium he had established during her absence. He had formed new loyalties, regrets, and reasons to preserve the little serenity he could find. One of the causes was Willow. Willow's life was likewise turned upside down. With Drew in her circle, she was forced to question all she thought she knew about devotion, control, and emotional safety. Drew had intervened when things were going apart with Michael. He'd been patient, helpful, and, above all, present. That solid, consistent presence became a lifeline in a world when everything seemed unexpected. She didn't love Drew in the classic sense, yet, but she was learning to trust him. That was new. That was dangerous. Willow's trust had always been linked to the Corinthos family name. Michael had been her guardian, the guy she had raised a family with, and the man who had pledged to keep her safe. However, promises did not always weather the storm of loss, betrayal, or the weight of past mistakes. When Michael began to crumble, burdened by his continuous battle with Sunny and the weight of legacy, he began to emotionally distance himself from her. That is when Drew stepped in, not to replace Michael, but to help Willow know she didn't have to face it all alone. However, things were not as clean as they appeared. Drew was more than simply a comfort. He had his own scars, secrets, and goals. His time at Pentonville transformed him. He had come out resolute, focused, and, in some ways, colder. Willow was terrified of Drew more than she wanted to admit. He wasn't the man who would carry Scout on his shoulders and fantasize about backyard barbecues. He had steel in his eyes now, and it was evident that his desires went beyond what he was willing to express aloud. When Jason returned, things became murkier. His presence changed the relationship between Willow and Drew. Jason never intended to complicate things, but his quiet passion was enough to shake foundations. Willow couldn't help but stare at him with a mix of admiration and hate. He reminded her of everything she had attempted to suppress: her anguish over her illness, the pressure to be perfect, and the unwavering expectations that come with loving someone from the Corinthos family. Jason didn't say much, but when he looked at her, she sensed recognition, as if he knew exactly what it meant to bear burdens in quiet. Drew felt it as well. He saw a small shift in Willow's concentration. It wasn't love, at least not yet, but rather curiosity and to some extent, caution. She recognized in Jason what Drew thought he was losing in himself: honesty without ego, sacrifice without spectacle. Drew had made concessions, justified actions, and worked harder than ever since he had been released. But for what? For love? For power? For peace? He was not sure anymore. All he knew was that Jason's presence reawakened misgivings he thought he had buried. Drew wasn't about to walk away. He believed in what he was creating with Willow, even if it was not flawless. He wanted her to be more than just someone he saved. He wanted her to be his equal, his partner, someone who viewed him not as a substitute but as a man with his own worth. But that demanded honesty, and Drew had not been as forthcoming as he should have been, particularly about Jason, especially about what he did to maintain power in Jason's absence. Willow, meanwhile, was divided between what she desired and what she thought was right. She didn't want to hurt Michael, even if their relationship had deteriorated. She didn't want to lead Drew on, even if a part of her craved the safety he provided. Jason reminded us that it's easy to lose control when dealing with someone who feels like fate. But Willow didn't believe in fate. She was a firm believer in choice. And she realized she needed to make a decision before the weight of inaction destroyed her. Jason did not want to watch Willow and Drew's relationship unfold. He never returned to claim anyone. He simply wanted to make things right, or at least less wrong. But Britt's survival hampered the mission. He couldn't simply disappear again. Britt was alive and needed him, not simply for safety, but to make her believe that life after trauma was still possible. He owes her that. He owed her his presence. Being present required letting go of anything that no longer served that goal. However, letting go wasn't simple. Port Charles had a way of drawing people back into the fire, no matter how far they attempted to flee. Jason has seen it 100 times before. The past always manages to flow into the present. And he was bleeding, whether anyone noticed it or not. Every look from Britt, every plea from Carly, and every conflict with Drew reminded him that coming back had a cost. He hadn't even began paying it yet. Willow faced a tough decision. She couldn't be with Michael out of remorse, Drew out of obligation, or look at Jason as a fantasy. She needed to be authentic. She needed to decide what she wanted out of life, not just what others expected of her. Her condition had taught her that time is fleeting. Every moment counted. It was no longer acceptable to waste time pretending. She began to pull back, slowly and deliberately. Her chats with Drew felt heavier than normal. She asked questions that she used to avoid. She met with Jason alone to chat. Not to start anything, just to know where he stood. Jason, for his part, did not make things simple. He rarely does. But in his quiet, she heard more than just words. She heard remorse, caution, optimism, and perhaps a little dread. That dread gave her insight. Jason was not coming back to save anyone. He was attempting to save himself. Drew, as he watched everything unfold, began to ask himself questions. Did he push too hard? Had he misjudged Willow's needs? Had he been so preoccupied with being the solution that he overlooked the true question? He still loved her. But love could not be a leash. He had to let her decide, even if it meant losing her. Britt's recovery represented a rebirth of sorts. She was not the woman who had vanished months before. She was stronger and more self-aware. She wasn't waiting for Jason to make a move, nor was she holding on to the past. But she still loved him. And she knew, deep down, that he loved her, even if he couldn't express it. She wasn't asking for eternity. She only wanted to begin. And for the first time in a long time, she believed that new beginnings were possible. So the lines were drawn. Jason, Britt, Willow, and Drew, all at a crossroads, none of them certain of the path ahead. Emotions were shifting. Loyalties were tested. Nothing about what happened next would be straightforward. However, nothing is ever the same in Port Charles. Jason Morgan had never been one to concentrate on sentiment. His life had long been a cycle of grief, responsibility, and silent perseverance. But today, standing alone by Britt Westbourne's gravesite, something changed inside him. The chill in the Port Charles air was not what made him nervous. It was what he had come to do. He needed answers. And the only way he thought he could get them was to exhume Britt's body. The concept began as a whisper, buried deep under the river of pain that he had never fully acknowledged. Jason had attempted to move forward following Britt's death. He'd accepted that she died in his arms that night, bleeding out while he struggled for her life. However, recent murmurs, cryptic comments, and a few troubling inconsistencies in the official report kept resurfacing in his mind. What if there was more to her death than they had all suspected? He didn't want to accept that someone had tampered with her body or fabricated parts of her autopsy. He wanted to believe that he had done everything he could, that her death was inescapable, that she had attained peace. However, when a man has lost too much, doubt begins to claw at his spirit. Jason was done ignoring his feelings. Obtaining permission to exhume Britt's body would not be simple. It required more than just court paperwork. It also meant confronting the one woman in town who would resist him the hardest, Liesel Albrecht. Liesel was not known for her calm manner, especially towards her daughter. She had been madly in love with Britt, and losing her had destroyed something essential in her. Even when she smiled or laughed, a shadow remained behind her eyes. If Jason expected cooperation, he would require more than rationality. He would need compassion, transparency, and most likely, a miracle. He was waiting for Liesel at her office in General Hospital. The air had a faint antiseptic smell, and the clock chimed louder than usual in the silence. When she eventually arrived, her heels boomed across the floor like gunshots, each stride fraught with distrust. The moment she noticed Jason, her stance tensed. "What is it now?" she snapped, moving past him to her desk. "I assume this isn't a social call." Jason stepped into her line of sight, nodding once. "You're correct. I need to talk to you about Britt." Her face softened slightly, but the steel in her eyes remained. "There is nothing left to say. My daughter has gone." "I know," Jason responded gently, "and I understand how much that loss still hurts. But something is awry. Something about her death doesn't feel right." Liesel folded her arms. "What are you implying?" "I'm not accusing anyone," he stated cautiously, "but I need to make sure." There were minor inconsistencies in the report. There were holes in the chain of custody for her medical documents. A nurse who was scheduled to work that night has disappeared. "I've been tracking the pieces and it doesn't add up." Her jaw clenched. "So you want to dig up her grave and abuse her again?" "Absolutely not," Jason said, unaffected by the anger in her voice. He knew it would not be simple. If Britt's death was influenced in any way, if she was used as a pawn in something broader, don't you want to know? "Of course I'd like to know," Liesel growled. "But she's dead. I don't want her memories tainted by unfounded fears." "This isn't unfounded," he added, passing her a folder. She looked at it, her hands quivering slightly. There were photocopies of hospital logs, surveillance film timestamps, and witness testimony. The contradictions glared back at her like ghosts. She didn't say anything for a while. Finally she sat down, spreading her lab coat across her lap, as if to ground herself. "What precisely are you expecting to find, Jason?" "I don't know," he confessed. "But if someone tampered with evidence, or if Britt was used to cover up something else, we can't just turn a blind eye. I owe her that." "So do you." The word, "oh," struck her like a dagger. She closed her eyes, fighting back a flood of emotion that threatened to destabilize her. "She was finally happy," Liesel remarked. "She died joyfully with you. Don't take it from her." Jason's voice cracked slightly as he continued, "I believe that's what I'm trying to protect." She didn't agree immediately away, but something about the way he stood, silent and rigid, reminded her of the man Britt had trusted. Her daughter believed in Jason. This had to imply something. The next day, they stood together in the cemetery. The order had been processed faster than expected, and the earth was about to be disturbed again. The mood was gloomy. There is no press or family, just a quiet nook of Port Charles and two people bound by the woman beneath their feet. When the coffin was opened, Liesel glanced away. Jason did not. The funeral home director was careful and meticulous. Jason's acquaintance, an out-of-town forensics expert, inspected the body meticulously. The silence was deafening, until she looked up. "There's evidence of needle marks," she remarked softly. "Two different sites, one consistent with what's documented in the autopsy, and the other, post-mortem. Not logged." Jason's stomach twisted. Liesel gave a gasp. "Post-mortem? Are you sure?" "I wouldn't say it if I wasn't," the examiner said. "It is faint. Why would someone inject her after death? It could have gone unnoticed if no one was looking for it." Jason asked. The examiner hesitated. to alter toxicology, to pollute the time of death. It is possible to implant or mask another medicine. I won't be able to say for certain until I run a full panel. Jason glanced to Liesel, who appeared to have collapsed. Her fury came quietly and slowly. They lied to me. They lied to all of us. I'm sorry, Jason whispered, and she didn't respond. The ensuing days were a jumble of lab tests, confidential reports, and backroom discussions. The toxicology results found a chemical not mentioned in hospital logs, a paralytic medication that had been phased out years before. Its presence indicated someone with extensive medicinal understanding. Liesel's thoughts quickly turned to the WSB, to old enemies with long-standing grudges. It wasn't only about Britt anymore. It was about a network of quiet that went much beyond the morgue. Jason began to suspect that Britt's death could have been a cover-up. Someone needed her gone, or the time of her death to serve as a distraction for another purpose. Perhaps it was linked to Cyrus Renault. Perhaps someone at the hospital was working both sides. Jason didn't know yet, but he was determined not to stop until he found out. Liesel, unexpectedly, became his staunchest ally. She may have once thought of him as an emotionally stunted killer, but now she saw someone committed to preserve her daughter's honor. And that, above all, gained her trust. Together, they dug deeper. They analyzed ancient security footage bit by frame. Liesel sought favors from former WSB colleagues, relying on connections she had previously believed severed. Jason relied on Britt for digital forensics. Each piece they discovered revealed another flaw in the falsehood they had been fed. They uncovered a falsified signature on Britt's last medical release form. They traced a deleted set of security logs back to a night shift technician who vanished 2 weeks after. They discovered that the old paralytic had been stolen from a now-closed lab, which Victor Cassadine had previously used. Jason's instincts ignited. If Victor had played a role in this, Britt's death could have been part of a greater chessboard. Perhaps she knew too much. Perhaps she was too near to finding out, and it cost her. Liesel was the one who put it all together. A storage locker in Britt's name that was never accessed after she died. Inside, they discovered a journal with Britt's private ideas, hypotheses, and even medical puzzles she had been following. One entry stood out. A mysterious reference to patients with no history, sudden paralysis, no diagnosis. Jason reread it several times. Britt had been on the verge of something. Whoever recognized it first made sure she didn't tell anyone. The complete truth was still out of reach, but what they had was adequate. Liesel presented the evidence to Robert Scorpio. Jason ensured that Spinelli provided backups to 3 other persons in case something happened to them. Britt would not get justice easily, but now they had momentum. They had a purpose. And most significantly, Britt was not forgotten. Jason stood once more at her gravesite. This time he wasn't alone in his sadness. He was carrying her legacy on. She didn't die for nothing, he muttered quietly and firmly. We'll finish what she started.